Hi, everybody. It's John Henry again with Youth with a Mission in Ocean City, New Jersey. We're with YWAM Converge. Converge is a ministry helping students to connect with missional internships. That is, giving students an opportunity to make a difference in the sphere of their studies, working with missional organizations around the world. And today is another of 30 thoughts that I've been going through over the course of the month of April, and we're on day 29. The thought today is kindness. It's brotherly kindness from 2 Peter chapter 1, where he has exhorted us to add to faith, virtue, knowledge, self-control, perseverance, godliness, brotherly kindness, and love. Tomorrow we'll talk about love, but for today, it's interesting how Peter brings us through these progressive steps, these qualities to make your calling and election sure, isn't it? We reached the lofty quality of godliness yesterday, which is a gift given as we pass through the fires of testing. We're purified as we persevere through the fire that burns away useless things and softens our hearts to stand in God's presence. We stand before the audience of one. That's godliness. Then suddenly we take this strange turn with the next step through Peter's list. We're challenged by the elder apostle to make every effort to add, to go from faith to virtue, to knowledge, to self-control, to perseverance, to godliness. And then suddenly, strangely, we're led into a very strange and very different quality, and that is brotherly kindness. Isn't that a natural thing? It's hardly spiritual, is it? Brotherly kindness is basically loving your neighbor. When Jesus was asked about the way to heaven by an expert of the law, he reduced all the Mosaic laws down to just two. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And when asked, well, then who is my neighbor? Jesus answered with a story, and he ended with a very different answer than was expected. The teacher of the law expected clarity about which people he was to love in order to fulfill the law. But Jesus' response was an example of an outsider, a despised Samaritan who showed kindness to a victim of a brutal robbery. The Good Samaritan's kindnesses contrasted with the religious people who passed the poor man who needed help. And then Jesus answered the question with another question. Who was the good neighbor? Jesus asked. He flipped the jot and tittle, fine print legalisms of the religious person, and he turned that question on its head. He turned the word neighbor from a noun to a verb. He said, in other words, don't ask who is my neighbor. Ask, how can I be neighborly? This is what Jesus asked. He said, which of these three do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. So the expert in the law understood the question, and he went straight to the correct answer. But Jesus had flipped the word neighbor around from being a noun that we objectify people, this one's a neighbor, that one's not, to how do I therefore be neighborly? Brotherly kindness is common kindness. It's engaging with the world, with the neighbor, in ways that other human beings with human hearts would do. You don't need to be a religious expert to show kindness. And yet Peter sets this quality after these prior qualities of faith, virtue, knowledge, self-control, perseverance, and godliness. He says, do the common thing now that you know God and that you have been tested in the fire, and you stand in my presence. Be human. This is an essential and almost final quality necessary to confirm your calling: kindness. Tomorrow we'll talk about the final one. Thanks for listening. Every day I remind you, wash your hands, don't touch your face. Sanitize surfaces and doorknobs. Keep a safe social distance, and we'll get through this coronavirus together. Thanks for listening.